We have been sold this false bill of goods as if triggers mean that there's something wrong.
Red flags.
Red flags. And it's like, no. Red flag is a pattern of behavior. The biggest thing to really help is for people to stop creating this fantasy. That's why I'm not a fan of the constant texting early in dating, because you create a false sense of intimacy. There's no tone, there's no facial expressions, and you are creating what you'd like them to be based on how I would handle it or past experiences. First date's just to see if you want to have a second date.
Yes.
It's collecting data.
That's it.
And that's it. And so it's really about like, what questions are we asking? Are we listening and tapping into our nervous system? How do I feel with them, not how do I feel about them?
Yes. How do you feel in that person's presence about yourself? And that takes presence.
That takes honesty.
Yeah.
Most of us don't want to admit it.
This episode is sponsored by our partners at BetterHelp. You know, there is nothing wrong with asking for support in your life. It's actually a sign that you're paying attention. BetterHelp matches you with a qualified therapist online, and you can switch anytime if it's not the right fit. When life feels overwhelming, therapy can often help. If you sign up, you can receive 10% off at betterhelp.com/loveready. That's betterhelp.com/loveready.
We've had some pretty awesome conversations with tremendous people in this series. And today I'm going to be joined by my friend, Sabrina Zohar. She is a dating coach, an author, entrepreneur, and host of her fantastic podcast, The Sabrina Zohar Show. She's known for her no BS approach to anxious attachment and giving people the exact tools to stop letting it run their love life. I'm so excited to talk to Sabrina today because she helps people navigate dating, how to steer away from our toxic patterns that are getting us into unhealthy relationships. Today, we're going to be talking to her about opening to new love. Sabrina Zohar, thank you for being with me, sweetheart.
I'm so excited to be here. Congratulations.
Thank you. Cool. Congratulations to you, too. You're rocking it.
Trying. We're doing what we need to do. Let's just say that.
You know what I think? I think we're both doing great and we're having fun doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the fun is the part, because when it starts to feel like work, you're just like, I don't want to do this. I'm like, okay, I know I'm burning out and I need a break. So trying to add that creativity back.
Well, I'm finally in a career. Well, it's been years now, but really it's been about 5-6 years where I'm like, okay, this is it, you know? And it keeps growing and changing and evolving. And I'm feeling like, I know I'm on the right path because we're doing great work, but it also just feels right. It feels good. I'm getting a lot of joy out of it.
Oh, I love that.
And so you used to be a fashion entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And now you're a dating coach and author, and your podcast is rocking it, Sabrina Zohar Show. So tell me about your evolution in becoming, working with people that are like, it's all about love.
For me, my evolution is a little bit on the untraditional side. So fashion was my background. I went to school for fashion. I thought that's it, right? I found my passion and that's what I'm going to do. And I hated it. I hated every second of it. The Devil Wears Prada is very real. And I was not getting any enjoyment. I was working with people that they had so much money. I couldn't relate and understand to that type of lifestyle of spending, $60,000 in a leather jacket that you're going to wear once or twice and not even comprehending what that means. And so one day I was supposed to do Shark Tank and I was prepping and I was on my way because I have a clothing line called Software. And so I started that after my mom got sick and it was like a whole thing. And I was on set, this is it. I'm thinking this is my future and I'm going to be, Mark Cuban's going to invest in my company. And I did my Joe Dispenza meditation and I'm feeling it. And I was like, this is it. And then they sent me home and they said they couldn't fit me on that day. And then they did it again a month later and I hit rock bottom. And I just had a really dark night. I will say that. And I'd already been talking about dating and relationships every time I would do podcasts and panels, and I don't shut up. So it was really seamless for me to say, I think I have something to say that other people might want to hear. And I turned to TikTok and I just started creating content of, hey, something doesn't make any sense. A lot of the advice that we're getting isn't actually getting you in the relationship you want. And your therapist is trying to get you to understand this. And I don't think that you quite are. And that just mushroomed. And all of a sudden the TikTok went well. So then I started a podcast and the podcast did well. And it's always just been a very natural progression and not forcing anything to happen, but being okay if something doesn't work out and not attaching to the outcome of it. But I think for me, I was that girl. I was the girl that would have panic attacks if someone didn't text me. I was the girl that would end it with a guy because he didn't contact me for the afternoon. And I started to realize how I was my own worst enemy because I was trying to protect myself, but inadvertently was creating the situations that I was trying to avoid. And so now being able to help other people to see their patterns and to see how old do you feel? Where did you learn this from? Like, what is coming up for you? And could we actually get a little bit deeper than if he wanted to, he would? Or if they like you, you know, if not, you'll be confused. When these are all really fun and lovely slogans, but they don't actually understand human behavior and how people actually tick.
Oh my gosh, I love that, Sabrina. I think about like all the books I've read and all the people I've talked to. So I feel like I have had like mass consumption of all the love and relationship advice and wisdom, like from the best, you know, but then it's actually putting it into practice, like you're saying. And maybe it's like, you know, you are able to really take it down to a granular level for people to understand and apply in their lives. So you just listed off a number of questions that are you inviting people to ask? So can you go into that? Some of those, like, I've never heard.
What's really important is like, okay, so when we see a lot of the dating advice that's out there, it's very outcome driven, right? Do you want this person as a partner? Then you need to do all of these things. And what that really is to me is self-abandonment, right? I need to change who I am, change how I approach things, and change how I do things in order to get you to like me, which is never going to lead you anywhere besides losing yourself even more. And so the first question I usually try to ask anybody first is like, where do you feel this in your body, right? So we can use texting as an example just because it's I think the biggest point of contention in dating right now is the digital part of it that for a lot of years people didn't have. And so the first thing I asked was like, where do you feel this in your body? So if somebody doesn't text you, like, do you feel it in your chest? Are you feeling it in your shoulders? What's coming up for you? What does dysregulation look like for you? Because without at least a body awareness, we're not going to be able to start to connect the dots and be able to regulate and come back to this present moment and not be in our amygdala and in our kind of like the lizard brain part of our brain. Once you've regulated and you come back, the first question I ask is, how old do I feel? Because if, like, I'll give you an example. When Ryan and I first started dating, we had just moved in together. And I think I asked him to go to Home Goods, like it was something minute. And he just said no and walked off. Now, to the average person, what's the big deal? They said no and you respect it. I completely lost my shit internally. I got super dysregulated, really uncomfortable, and was trying to understand. And so in that moment, I was like, how old do you feel right now? I was like, I feel like that's my dad. Okay, that right there off the bat told me that this is not about the stimulus that just happened. This is about the story that I've created. Then once I understood that, I was like, okay, that felt dismissive. My dad is very good at and just walking off. So I didn't feel seen or heard or understood. That doesn't mean my partner did anything wrong. So once I understood that and was like, where did I learn this from? Okay, that's how my dad used to interact with me. So this has nothing to do with Ryan. What is it that I need from him? I need an explanation. That would be helpful. So when he came back in, all I said was, hey, can I share something with you? That has nothing to do with you, but I was really triggered in that moment. Moving forward, do you think that you could tell me why you don't want to do it so at least I don't have to fill in the blanks and create a narrative? And he was like, of course, absolutely. He was like, I know your dad and I completely understand what you're talking about. And moving forward, I'll be able to help. And so I think the reason that I ask those really meaty questions is because we want to be able to differentiate, am I creating a narrative or is this actually what's coming up? There's a brilliant strategy of your state determines your story, determines your strategy. And so your nervous system state, if I'm super dysregulated and anxious, is going to determine the story. So if I don't hear from someone, right, they didn't text you for an hour. If I'm dysregulated, the story I'm creating is they don't care about me, they found someone else, I knew that they were gonna blah, 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 which will then determine the strategy of I need to text them, why aren't they answering me? And there's an urgency to it. So if we can start to understand ourselves a little bit more, we'll then be able to differentiate. Am I hung up on this person because they're so amazing and they really are the love of my life, or because they trigger something inside of me that reminds me of my parents?
I'm going to give you an example of something that happened with Hector and I when we were early on in our relationship, maybe like 4 or 5 months in. And he often now, like he'll text me and be like, okay, honey, I'm just going to take like 4 hours. I'm going to be off the grid. I'm going to go for a hike. I'm going to do what I'm going to do. Just time by himself, like whatever. It doesn't matter. But he'll tell me so that I'm like, okay. So rewind. 4 or 5 hours went by and I hadn't heard from him. And it was around like 8 or 9 at night. And I'm like, okay, I haven't heard from him. Something's wrong. So my, right? Like, okay, the state, what you're saying is a state, story, strategy. Okay. So my state, I was like, yep, definitely getting anxious. And then my story became like, something's wrong. Something's, maybe he's hurt. Like, I think he's been in an accident. Like, oh my gosh, I was going down the road of like the worst case scenario. He's not safe. Like, something's wrong here. So I actually called one of my really good friends who lives close to him and said, Viv, can you please drive by his house? Just check that his truck is there and that he's safe. So she did. And she texted me back, he's good. I'm like, okay, great. So I went to sleep, right? And so I'm like, he's safe, we're good. So the next day I told Hector this story and he was like, not that impressed with the fact that
He's like, you did what?
Exactly. He's like, you did exactly that. Like, he's thinking, who is this wacky woman? You know what I mean? Like, he didn't think of it as like a
Endearing and sweet.
No, he thought it was like, that's going too far.
And I think that we can hold two conflicting truths, right? Like if at 9 o'clock at night you haven't heard from someone, you're like, I hope they're okay. I'm going to assume they're okay. Maybe if I would have called him and like, hey, I just wanted to check in, make sure you got back safe.
I was calling and texting and he wasn't getting back to me. So
that's weird, right? But I also think, where's the difference, right? The difference being the story we create, right? The story is what we create that it's like, oh, they're not okay, something's wrong, are they mad at, right, whatever. That's not based on any fact. Because if we have to zoom out, and I can understand that because Ryan will go on 5-6 hour hikes, he'll text me right before, and I've had to learn to sit in the discomfort of like, you know what? If 2 days go by and I haven't heard from this person, I will sound the alarms and call the sheriff. But if I only have like 3 or 4 hours, and what I've really noticed, especially in dating, like specifically this, maybe relationships as well, is the hypervigilance around it's been 3 hours or it's been 4 hours or they were on social media, but they didn't text me back. And really what that is like we're trying to seek safety externally, right? By if you can tell me we're okay, then I'm fine, instead of creating that internal safety of, I don't know what this is going on. I'll talk to them when I talk to them, and I'm not going to assume the worst because that's a protective mechanism. But when we see secure people, it's funny because my brother married this woman and she's very secure. And we were talking and it was the three of us, and he said, oh, well, come on, I don't trust people. Like, I assume the worst. Like, don't we all? And she looked at him and she's like, I don't. And she was like, I wasn't raised like that. Like, I was raised in a very different environment where, no, I don't assume the worst in people. I give them the benefit of the doubt. And if they disappoint me, then I'll make the right moves. And that right there is the difference, is that we're always on this defense of I can't be hurt and I don't want anyone to hurt me. But then we end up creating the situations that can hurt us from things that don't exist.
Oh, totally. People's behavior is quite erratic, right? They're looking for, so how are you helping people in dating? Like, there's so many things, but like, what are some general things that you're seeing where people are really struggling?
I think the struggles that I'm seeing more often than not are what we talked about as far as like getting dysregulated and not having an emotional regulation. That's really important. Like, there's nothing sexier. I don't care who you're dating as long as they're 18 and over and there's a consenting adult. If somebody cannot regulate their own emotions, inclusive of us, right? Then there's nothing that's going to cause the conflict and not have repair quicker. Conflict's not a problem. It's okay to have an argument. It's okay to disagree. But do we regulate and then repair, or do we just keep going in the same cycle? And the work that I really do, it's the book I wrote, is all about patterns. What am I seeing? What are the patterns? Because I hear it every day of like, this is the first time I felt this. And I'm like, oh, really? Really? This is the first time that you've ever felt, just because they didn't text you, that you're losing your marbles. It's like, no, then we start to trail it back and say, I feel like a kid again. And what I really teach people is how to activate the prefrontal cortex, be in the present moment so that you're not always in your lizard brain. You're not always coming from a place of fear, but instead we expand our window of tolerance. And for anyone who doesn't know what that is, your window of tolerance is essentially how you can stay flexible with your nervous system before you go into hyperarousal, super anxious, or hypoarousal, shutting down, going dorsal. And so my main goal is like, how can we expand our window of tolerance? How can we also understand that my lived experience isn't everybody else's?
Yes.
Doesn't mean we have to accept it, right? You could date somebody that is absolutely not anything the way you would do it. That's okay. You're allowed to make a choice. And that's really, I think, the crux of the material is like, how do we allow people to understand they do have agency and choice, and that you're not a 6-year-old who's waiting for your parents to let you know that you could do something.
How are you helping people even just get ready for a date, for example?
The first thing is, what are your tools before you go? So like, are we going for a walk around the block? Sour candy is a really big thing because your brain can't be at 2 places at once. So when you put a sour candy in your mouth, your brain immediately, your prefrontal cortex turns on, and then you can say, oh wait, wow, I'm here right now. The biggest thing I really help is for people to stop creating this fantasy. That's why I'm not a fan of the constant texting early in dating, because you create a false sense of intimacy. There's no tone. There's no facial expressions, and you are creating what you'd like them to be based on how I would handle it or past experiences. That's our default mode network. So that's the first thing, is like, what are my tools before I go? The second thing, I help people get really clear about what is it you actually need, not just want, right? I could want all the things in the world, but you know what I actually need? I need somebody who makes me feel seen, heard, and understood. I need consistency. I need reciprocity. I might want 6'5", right? Like, that might be a really nice to have, but that's not actually fundamental to what's going to be a healthy and secure relationship. And I really help people to understand that it's okay if it doesn't work out, right? On a first date's just to see if you want to have a second date.
Yes.
It's collecting data.
That's it.
And that's it. And so it's really about like, what questions are we asking? Are we listening and tapping into our nervous system? How do I feel with them? Not how do I feel about them? And starting to
How do I
get curious.
feel with them, not how do I feel about them?
Yeah.
Yes.
I could think you're the bee's knees.
Oh, yeah.
But
How do you feel in that person's presence about yourself? And that takes presence. And yeah.
that takes honesty.
Yeah.
Most of us don't want to admit it. We don't want to admit like, oh, that guy's so charming, or they, right? I don't want to genderize it. But oftentimes when we feel the spark, right? The spark is really just blood rushing to your phalanges so that you can run.
Blood rushing to your phalanges?
Yeah, but they're attractive. So you think it means that this is the person for me. There's no data to back up that you have to have this massive spark with someone to have a healthy and secure relationship, because a nervous system that's regulated doesn't have highs and lows. And so that's really what we're looking for, is like, am I with you? Do I feel comfortable? Can I say anything and not have to judge or question myself? Do you validate my experience, or are you dismissing and diminishing what I'm going through? That's really important to understand.
So you are in you've been in a relationship with your partner Ryan for like 4 years, right?
3 and a half. Yeah.
So how was it before you met him? Like, how did you know that did you come to a place where you were like, I'm ready for another relationship? You know, because people struggle with this, right? It's like, I was in a very like hurtful, bad marriage, you know? And so I was like, people ask me like, how did you know when you were ready? You know? How did you know? And how do you coach people on that? Like, I didn't want to repeat. I didn't want to get back into, like, I was scared.
Yeah.
That, you know, I feel good within myself, but I really don't want to enter into another bad relationship.
Fair.
You know?
I think the first thing is like, there's no such thing as being fully healed. And that is a fallacy that I think people need to hear. And I was watching the new Love is Blind last night, and they kept saying, did you heal through that? Did you heal that? And it's like, but that doesn't exist, right? You can process it, you can accept it, and you can move on from it, but that doesn't mean you've healed it. So that's the first thing. I think when we're looking at, am I ready to date again? What are my tools? Am I okay if this doesn't work out? Is my entire self-worth contingent upon if you choose me or not? Am I clear about what did I used to accept that I'm no longer willing to? And above all, do I trust myself? Because that's the fundamental, right? Fear is so real. But at the end of the day, most of the things that we fear never actually come to fruition or end up happening. So what's important is, if you're ready to go out there and date, is to know, yeah, you're going to get triggered. We have been sold this false bill of goods as if triggers mean that there's something wrong.
Red flags.
Red flags. And it's like, no. Red flag is a pattern of behavior. A trigger is a neutral action or inaction that really just tells me, where am I coming back to? How old do I feel? What, that's where a trigger is there for. So I think if you're looking to get back out there and date, like for me, I had not the best track record. I'll say that. When I first moved to LA, when I was in New York, I was a hot mess. I slept my way through Manhattan because I thought if I did that, you'll like me. Then when I moved to LA, I realized I talk different. I have ADHD. My brain works differently. I'm very blunt, very direct, very fast. And people here didn't know what to do with it. And so I started internalizing it of like, oh God, is there something wrong with me? Am I doing something wrong? That was the work I needed to do. But what really changed it was, I changed the way I dated, because I dated an emotionally unavailable guy in the beginning of 2022. And he was everything I wanted on paper. I remember even pinch myself, like, this can't be real. It wasn't, you're right. It was a total false bill of goods. And I remember telling him to get out of my house and being like, I'm not doing this anymore. And I was terrified and I was scared, and I never heard from him again. I'm thinking, oh, he's gonna regret it. And I'm gonna hear, no, we never spoke again. And I thought in my head, okay, so this is me choosing myself, because what would it have looked like? And so every person I dated, I started to improve, right? This doesn't work for me, move on. Until I dated a guy where run Shark Tank happened. And right after that, he showed up in all the bells and whistles, right? Texting me every single day. We had a cute little nickname. We spent every day together when we met. But he was so unavailable for any capacity that when my dog passed away, he told me he wanted to watch a movie that night and couldn't be there for me as I'm mourning the ending of like my best friend. And that was that moment where I was like, no, I don't want this anymore. Because all of my 20s, I had put it in like, I'm only okay if Clem's alive. And so when he died, my baby, right? The only thing that taught me object permanence and safety, I lost myself. And that's when I realized, like, I can't put my safety into somebody else or something else. So I broke up with the guy, walked out, and I was like, I'm not doing this. And I met Ryan 3 days later. And the reason it worked out, we slept together on the first date. Like, we broke all the taboos. But when I left, I looked him in the eyes and I said, listen, I had a really great time. And truthfully told, like, I needed to get laid, so thank you. But if you call me again, that's because you actually want to pursue something here. I don't do casual. I'm not your friends with benefits, so don't waste my time. And he left and he was like, that was so hot because you were more afraid of losing yourself than you were afraid of losing me.
Yes.
And that's what helped because I completely detached from the outcome and said, listen, if I see him again, great. And if not, I have myself at the end of the day. You're an addition to, not instead of.
Yes.
And so I think that's the mindset we want to get into, because if every time you go out and date, you're looking at every stone to be like, is this my partner? Is this my husband? Is this my wife? You're missing out on being present in the moment to see if you actually want them, not just do they want you.
Exactly. It's such a different energy. I remember going into dating after my divorce, and it was like that. Yeah. What I really just sat myself down and I was like, you are going to do this differently. And it's like, Robin, you're going to bring so much to somebody's life. They are lucky to have you. That was my mindset. I was like, listen, what I am bringing to the table into a relationship is a lot. And it's like, that's what I had to reframe everything. It's like, I'm not going to go, and I had to be my own dating coach because I was a dating coach, right? Like back in the day, I was a matchmaker and dating coach. And this is what I would tell my clients, right? And here I was, twice divorced, going like, holy shit, Robin, like what you were doing before is not working. So you have to be different. You have to start walking the walk. And that's exactly what I did. I just remember right before I met Hector, I was sitting in my car and I was like, you're rocking. You know what? It's not about if he likes you. It's like, do you like him? Yeah. Just remember that, Robin. Like I was like my mother talking to my, like, I'm like, Yeah. And so that's what the mindset that we need to be in, like loving yourself fully and accepting. And that's a big thing.
And being okay that other people won't.
Being okay that you're, exactly.
Like every day on the internet, I get people that love me and then I get people that fucking hate me, that like think I'm the worst person they've ever met. And it's like, that's okay. I'm not supposed to be for everybody, because if I am for everyone, that means I'm changing and molding myself to fit for everybody. There's nothing on this planet that everybody likes. I could ask everyone in this room right now, do you like pineapple on pizza? Or
yes,
do you
like,
right? You do. I hate it. To me, it makes no sense.
I know. It's like one or the other.
There's nothing on this planet that everybody likes, because that wouldn't make sense for us, right? Oh. And it's funny, I had that conversation with my brother. He's a filmmaker. He has done major movies. He's done every music video. And I got him connected with a friend because he was building out his set. And he was like, do you think that, like, am I charging too much? And I talked to him and I called him and I said, how often does a movie filmmaker come to your home to privately create your studio? Know your worth, because you are bringing something that nobody else has, and I need you to remember that. And he was like, yeah, you're right. Yeah. And like felt so empowered because he was like, you're right, I forgot that for a second. Because we think I should be lucky to have you. And I'm like, what makes you so lucky for you to be in my life versus the other way around? Because I know what I bring, I know what I offer, and I know that anybody would be lucky. Maybe I just haven't met the right person yet.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean we can't grow and evolve.
Yeah. Oh, I get it.
This episode is sponsored by our partners at BetterHelp. In the course of my life, I've had a lot of experience with therapy. And in my job, what I do every day is I speak to relationship experts. I read all the books. But it wasn't until I actually started working with a qualified therapist that I trust, somebody that I built a relationship with over time, that this person has been able to help me with a lot of different things in my life. Because of therapy, I've become a better mom, a better partner, a better leader in my company. BetterHelp makes it possible for anyone to access that kind of support. When life feels overwhelming, therapy can help. If you sign up, you'll receive 10% off at betterhelp.com/loveready. That's betterhelp.com/loveready.
So what about like when you are dating somebody and you are in the texting situation before, you're not quite, okay, what are the ways that we can navigate texting? Because I was just talking to my friend and colleague and she was saying, like, I'm having a hard time, like, with like getting stuck in like texting, how to do it, when to do it.
And there's no rules. There's no rules.
There's no rules.
I would say this. The biggest thing, like, I remember when I first met Ryan, I was in the, like, why isn't he texting me every day? Like, I don't understand. Why haven't I heard from him? And I had to sit with that. And I was like, all right, Zohar, what is the text doing for you? Just validating that he still likes you? I'm like, okay, so this has nothing to do with the connection. But I'll never forget, it was probably 5 or 6 dates in. And I texted him and I said, hey, hope you're having a great day. I just wanted to share, I would love more communication in between our dates. Is that something that you're willing to do? I'd like to text more because I don't feel as connected when we go a day in between. And he wrote me back a couple hours later going, hey, no, But let me explain. And he said,
Wow.
he said, I stare at a screen for 9 hours a day. I work in tech. The last thing I want to do when I'm done with that is take out a mini screen in my hand and stare at it when that's not how we're actually building a connection. I'd much rather see you in face. If you'd like to have a phone call, you want to have a FaceTime, more than happy to do so. We can have a consistent date night every week, but I'm not interested in a digital relationship. And if that's what you're looking for, I wish you all the best.
Whoa.
And I remember just being like, oh, so hot.
Because he told you, like he had clear boundaries.
Clear boundary.
That's so good.
And offered a compromise. It wasn't
Yes,
just,
it
I'm
wasn't
bad
just
at
like,
texting.
no. Yeah.
But I think what happens, and I hear this all the time of like, well, but we text every single day in the beginning and we talked all the time and then it fades. It's like, yeah, because when you start at 100, where else are you going? You have to build towards that. Why am I giving you access to my day-to-day life, my nervous system? Then it's a dopamine addiction loop. I'm constantly waiting for the next. I can't sleep. I can't eat. I'm not focused at work. I'm sacrificing that much for someone I may not have even met yet. That's because we blink our eyes and all of those moments that you have in that could be gone. Right? The moments that you're on your phone, not paying attention to your family, you don't know that they're going to be there the next day. And so it's important to remember this person is an addition to. So if they're an addition to and they're additive to my life, that means they have to earn a place into my life. So when it comes to the texting,
good, Sabrina. That is like good.
big on boundaries.
Big on boundaries.
Talk about it. Hey, meta communication, right? I'd like to talk about the communication I like. I don't need to hear from you every day, but why don't we have a standing date night and we'll have a phone call 3 times a week. Okay, cool. That makes sense for both of us. Then we both know what to expect.
Right.
If no one says anything, I'm going to assume everything is okay. And if not, I will say, hey, I've noticed a shift in our dynamic. Am I picking up on that correctly? So I can get curious about the other person's experience and see how they respond.
It's so much about being honest and clear with your communication. With Hector and I, like I would like to have a little bit more, like with the phone calls. He's not a phone call guy.
Okay. Hector.
I have to say, like he knows that how much, because I'm very like honest with him. Like I am a phone call person. I grew up like having phone calls, and I know that's not for everybody,
Right? And it's also, because then it's like, okay, I don't need everything to be in the only way. Like Ryan and I are the same. I text him about if something is coming. I'm not just like, wow, it's so pretty out today. And he's like, okay, babe, have a good day. Like go live your life, because I want to be present. Phones came out, I remember in 2009 is when I got my first iPhone. So we're talking in the last 15, max 20 years.
You're right.
That's become normal. What about everything that came before that?
We didn't have cell phones.
No, my mom always said, she's like, if they called me and I wasn't home, you'll get a call when I get home. That's it. Like, I'll listen to the voicemail when I get home and I'll give you a call back. And if I miss you, we'll catch each other another time. But I think we've created, like dopamine is released in anticipation of, which is why texting and social media and the hypervigilance, and that's when, if I start to see anybody that counts how long and all, the wheels have fallen off the car already.
Right.
It's something that nobody wants to hear, but it's the uncomfortable truth about dating, that if you're going to have a digital relationship, then you're probably not ready for a real one. Because then you have to eye contact.
Oh, that's good too.
Intonation.
A quote. There's so many quotes. Drop the bomb.
It's not my first rodeo. But it's also just, this is the stuff that changed my life.
Yes.
Because if I hadn't changed this, I would not be with Ryan. And then what would I be missing out on? A robust and incredible human that just doesn't operate in the same way that I do. That doesn't mean that I'm right and he's wrong. That just means that we do things differently.
You know what? It's mature. It's adult. Really, that's what it is, right? It's like I love the question that you asked in the beginning around like, how old am I right now? How old do I feel? Is that the question?
Yeah.
Right? Because where's that coming from? That's coming from my younger self that's anxious, insecure, all those things. And it's like, no, I want it, like, I'm here now. I'm 48 years old. How do I really want to operate?
What would I feel? Because that's what I ask when people say about the texting stuff. I'm like, doesn't that sound like a teenager? Right? Oh my God, he's so hot and I like really like him and he's gonna be the love of my life. And it's like, what would your mom say to that? Like, yeah, sure, right? That's very cute. Versus an adult, what would an adult say? You don't know that they're ignoring you. Like, why don't you just talk to this person? Or why don't you give it a minute and sit in some discomfort? And I think that's what I see quite often is like the number one parenting hack ever is like, teach your kids that disappointment is okay. No, you don't get a participation award. Like you didn't meet the requirements that you need to get that. So then try harder next time. Right. And I think everything has to be like, oh, it's okay. And everything's okay. And it's okay. How you need it is how it's going to be. That's not how the world works. Yeah. So teaching disappointment allows kids to then, if it doesn't work out, that's okay. It doesn't mean my worth is dependent on it. But if all I've ever known is that it has to go the way I want, it's going to be one bumpy road.
Oh, in a relationship.
And life.
Oh, yes. So you said something earlier about red flags being more of like a pattern of behavior. Can you go into that? Because there's all the TikToks and all this like red flag. What's a red flag?
To me, a red flag, again, pattern of behavior, meaning that it's not a one-off situation. So if they didn't open the door for me at the restaurant, that's not a red flag. What the red flag would be is, did they dismiss my feelings when I expressed myself to them? Sure, I want you to be nice to strangers and waiters and staff and things like that, but how do you treat me when you're having a bad day? That's the red flag I want to look for.
Yeah.
How do you talk to me when I set a boundary? If I say no to you, are you going to get mad at me? Because I have that. I matched with a guy on Hinge many moons ago, and we had talked for like 2 hours, and I was like, okay, like, do you want to meet? Like, can we get off the app? His response was, whoa, what's the rush to the altar? And I was like, I don't know, man, I just don't want to waste my fucking time. Like, how about that? I'm not interested in this. And that's when I realized, like, no, thank you. That's the red flag if, like, he consistently kept discrediting my experience and what I wanted. Yeah. I think another red flag is, like, how do they talk about their exes, right? A question I love to ask on a first date is, how'd your last relationship end and what did it teach you about yourself? Yes. I don't care about the ex. We're not talking about that. No. Did you learn anything? Are you growth-minded? Do you take accountability and ownership? Because I hear it every single day, like, oh, it's your anxious attachment. It's your anxiety that's the problem. Okay, so when they deflect, that's a red flag.
So how are you helping people with making the choice to actually, rather than thinking, oh, that other person that I'm communicating with could be the one, the choice paralysis, or there's too much.
Oh, you mean like the option paralysis, like tabbing all the people in the dating apps? I think at the end of the day, I don't, truth be told, work with people in that capacity, because those are the people that I'm like, I think you need a little bit more work and help on yourself. Like, I'm not a therapist and I'm not going to pretend that I am. No. And so if you're coming to me saying, oh, well, there's always another person and I don't know if I'm the bigger, better deal, then my response back is like, then you're not actually ready for a relationship, because you want this to fit this mold that probably doesn't exist. And I have plenty of friends like that, of like, I just haven't met her yet. And I'm like, yo, you're 46. You've been single the last 20 years I've known you. You've never had a relationship, but you think this ethereal person's just going to show up and do everything in the way that you want to, and you don't have to make any compromises. And that's why it's always the next, because the reality is a lot of those people are scared of intimacy. They don't want to be seen and really connect with somebody, so it's easier to go, who's next, who's next, who's next. So usually, if I am going to work with someone like that, it's understanding that reference and even just shifting a question of like, what do you think is out there? Or the biggest question I ask most people is like, what parts of yourself do you not feel lovable? What parts of yourself do you not think anyone is ever going to love? Because that's who's driving the car. And that's who's causing us to say, I don't want anyone to see this. So then we have to bring them to the surface so that you can live with that and be okay with other people seeing it.
Oh, what parts of yourself are you not loving?
Yeah, for me, it was the anxiety. I just was like, how my own father couldn't handle how much anxiety I had and my emotions. So why would anybody else? And then it wasn't until then that I realized, so that's what needs me. Those are the parts that I need to show compassion to and grace, because the anxiety doesn't come from nowhere. It's just trying to protect me. And so if I understand it and not fight it, like how often is shame and blame? If I were to start shaming you, are you going to change? Probably not. But if I lovingly explain something and then offer another alternative, you might take that a little bit more. And that's what we need to do with ourselves.
Yeah. So Sabrina, how do we distinguish between a relationship that is good, it's calm, there's peace, there's stability, right? And when it's boring, because people are
struggling with that.
Yeah.
I think what we need to look at is a couple of things. One is my pattern that I'm seeking a feeling. Because if I'm looking for the highs and the lows and then at the end of the day, my nervous system is not going to understand what safety feels like, right? So that I have to create within myself to go, wow, I feel really calm when I'm with my friend. And noticing like, oh, wow, like I'll never forget the first time my dad came to visit after I'd done a ton of work on myself. And I felt my body and I was like, whoa, no wonder I couldn't do this. That was a jarring experience, but I wouldn't have been able to do that unless I was like, where do I feel this in my body? Like my favorite thing is Joe Bolt Taylor, right? An emotion takes 90 seconds to run its course. So what I want anybody to do is be able to stop and say, okay, when I'm feeling something in my body, can I focus on that? Can I give it a color, a texture, a shape, right? For me, I have this black spiky ball and it starts to feel like, is it getting bigger, smaller, right? If we really focus on that emotion, then we can let the feeling pass and then start to understand like, okay, what is the narrative and story that I've created here? Is it that they're genuinely boring, right? Like we've all been on dates before that you're like, man, I'd rather get a root canal right now.
Oh yeah, this is not going well.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
Versus if we don't have anything, what I hear all the time is like, I didn't feel the spark. And so if I have nothing to pinpoint, I'm just like, I don't know, I'm just not feeling it. That's usually when I'll challenge and be like, which part? That they're consistent, that you don't have to guess, that you're not constantly wondering how to prove yourself, because that's the nervous system trying to go back into what it's always done. And so then we need to work on that. Where did I learn that love has to be earned? Where did I learn that love is conditional? Where did I learn that who I am is a problem and that I have to morph and change that? That's what we want to understand. Versus, I don't enjoy their company. I don't have anything in common with them. We're not aligned.
That's different.
It's very different. That's actual boring.
Yes.
Versus I'm just not feeling highs and lows with them. And it's like, good, date them.
Yes. And so you're saying like, go on like 2-3 dates.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't, there's this new term, I don't know if you've heard it on TikTok, date until you hate.
No.
Unsubscribe. It is
Date until you hate?
It is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. And it's instead of making a choice for yourself, you date someone until they give you enough red flags to hate them.
Wow.
And I was like, right, this is what we're doing. This is what dating has come down to. I was like, or hear me out. We don't have to wait until someone gives me a reason to walk away. I can just decide that they're not somebody I want to date. Because if I don't know if I'm looking for, then how do I know when it's presenting itself? Yeah. Because a lot of these people could go for love bombing and grandiosity and a lot of attention up front. That's a red flag. Because when, again, you start at 100, like I was watching my favorite trash TV, and the girl said, yeah, on our first date, he took me to a store and bought me a $2,000 bracelet. I was like,
oh my goodness.
And it's like, and guess what, right? People were like, that's so romantic. Okay, go back 6 seasons and look at the way he treated his ex. He was super abusive to her. He would scream at her. He would call her names. He got into a fist fight with her brother. He would dismiss her. And it's like, but he was grandiose and charming at first, because what they do is they get you to disarm so that you think that they're doing this because they love you. So when they start to devalue you, you're like, I don't get it, but they love me, but they care about me. Maybe there is something wrong with me. They become the center of your universe, so you start to question everything. Mm-hmm. And so that's where I'm like, we don't need, the spectrum doesn't have to be on either side. Have you ever been love bombed? Because I have.
Have I ever been love bombed? No.
Oh, good. Good.
Yeah.
It's a good sign. Just the intensity, right? The pinch doesn't match the ouch. It's too much too soon. Right. I know you're amazing. You know you're amazing. How does a stranger know that?
Oh, yeah. So what did your love bombing look like?
I will never forget. I remember calling my mom being like, seeing him walk across the street, and I was like, he's the one. And I hung up. And he was everything I could have ever wanted, calling me every single day, texting me every day. Let's go on a trip. I want you to meet my friends and family. You're my everything. $15,000 tickets to the Super Bowl. And I was like, no, wow. Please. I don't like this. This doesn't feel comfortable. He's the one that ended up being emotionally unavailable because it was just so much. But he wasn't listening to my boundaries. I kept telling him I didn't want to be intimate, and he would constantly try where I was like, hey, I'm going to leave if you don't listen to me. And so I started to just realize, like, this doesn't feel good. You're not actually listening to what I'm saying. No. You just like getting me. And I'm not going to give you that validation. Yeah. Because it's really important to set boundaries and say, hey, I really like you, and please don't get this wrong, but this pace is moving a little fast for me. Could we slow it down so I could feel more comfortable in the connection? Anybody that's not going to like that is not somebody you want to keep dating.
No.
The reason most people love bomb, and I'm not even going to say men or women, I will say people. The reason people love bomb is for a few reasons. One, it's to gain safety quickly, right? If I show you everything, then you'll like me. Two, oftentimes it can be manipulative, of course, right? We have that depending on intentions, the intention matters. If the intention is, I'm going to get them and they're going to see all that, that's manipulative. If the intention is, I'm scared of losing them, so let me give them more and more and more, and they'll see how much I like them.
I think that comes from anxiety. More than, yes.
And I see often, like when we talk about what are the societal pressures, right? Actually, we literally had this conversation at dinner last night, that societally, men are taught to be providers. You need to show how you can. Back in the day, you come hunting and gathering, and you'd bring all of the stuff, and you'd be like, okay, look, I can provide. And now I think a lot of people will use the love bombing of like texting and calling and gifts, and I'll fly you and I'll do all this because it avoids having to get any deeper intimacy, because that's their currency. The currency is, what can I do for you? Instead of, how can I connect with you? It's really, the reason people love bomb is to either get safety quickly or they're chasing a feeling, because maybe they were taught that love has to be earned. So how much can I give you in order for you to like me? And then what happens? The person ends up liking you, and then the person that did the love bombing gets turned off and says, this is boring now, because they got their validation from proving themselves to you. But once you give it to them, there's no more chase.
And they also don't want the intimacy.
They're not there because of you. They're there because they like the idea of you and because of what it means about them. Because if someone that's genuinely intentional about getting to know you will respect when you say, hey, this makes me feel uncomfortable, they're like, all right, no worries. Like, we'll slow it down. I won't give you any of this until you feel ready. Because I don't need to know how much money you have or what's in your bank account. I want to know what's in your head and what's in your heart and what's in your brain.
I was dating a man before I met Hector. We went on 3 dates, and we lived far. He lived in Vancouver. I lived in Victoria. So I really didn't know this man. So we were getting to know each other over text, you know? And I came to Vancouver for business, and I was like, do you want to go for dinner? This was like, the first date was a walk. Actually, only 2 dates, to tell you the truth. And the rest was just texting. And we went out for dinner. But, you know, you can learn a lot about somebody, even just through texting. And I was questioning some things that were going on because I would ask him about his business and about, his dog. And I wasn't getting a lot of responses back. And then we'd go hours and hours without texting. That's fine. And then it really wouldn't be a lot of interest. So I was like, okay, I think, my intuition was telling me, watch out, or just be cautious, or that's something to pay attention to.
Eyes wide open.
So we went for dinner and we're sitting across from each other at the table. And the conversation, it was like me asking him questions, and really not a lot back in return. And at the end, I went up to go to the bathroom, came back to the table, and he looked at me and said, Robin, I just want you to know that I am not physically attracted to you.
Okay,
and I was
thank
you. Actually, that's exactly what I said. I was like, thank you for telling me. Yeah. And I literally just grabbed my purse and my coat and walked out the door. I was like, bye-bye. I don't even know what that was. But actually, it was a blessing. It was all good. It was meant to be. I was not meant to be with that person.
And imagine if you had spent 6 months texting that person prior and get building this false sense of intimacy.
It was weeks. It was,
right. Because then what happens, we want to force it to happen. Because we're like, no, but this, I want this back. And it's like, but first of all, there's ChatGPT. I can't tell you how many people use that to message. You can set, I was actually dating a guy, and while I was laying next to him, he was texting another woman, and he had it auto set. Ryan even had, he's like, I was in a fraternity. I know what a predator looks like. And he was like, you can automate text messages. That's why there's not a lot of dialogue. It's just good morning, good night, how's your day? Those get really old. You get bored off of that because, again, the more dopamine that you have, the more you need. And it just keeps building because your dopaminergic system needs more and more and more. It's like drugs. The first time you do drugs, good time. But you do that every single day, all day, you're going to need more and more and more to feel. And so we want to get away from that and start to say, what is it like when I'm in person? Do you ask questions about me? Are you curious about my experience? Are you listening to are you using active listening to revert back or going, wow, thank you so much for sharing. I can totally imagine how that would make you feel. Can I share something about myself? That's what makes it sexy. That's what makes you connect with somebody. Because who are you going to be with if they text you all day, but you need to go to the hospital? Are they just going to text you while you're at the hospital? It's like, I want someone to show up for me, not to pretend to show up.
Yeah. The chapter in my book, talking about being different in our relationships and having a healthy, nurturing, beautiful relationship. We can all have that. We can all learn to love differently, whether you're in a relationship, you're wanting a relationship. I'm in a relatively new relationship. It'll be 2 years. That's pretty new. And I think we're charting a new course in the way we're loving.
For me, this is the healthiest relationship because for the first time, we're both okay if it doesn't work. And that's just the reality of I want you in my life, which means I'm making a conscious choice every day to have you in my life, but I don't need you in my life.
Yes.
And that's the first time I've ever felt where I can have a hard conversation with him and say, hey, if this is not if this is where we end, that's okay. When I was moving to LA, it's okay. I had to be okay with the fact that he might not want that life. He might not want to be with someone that's a public figure that has a bunch of followers that when I go out, people want to stop and talk to me. He might not want that. And I don't take that personally. What that means is then we're just not on the same path, but he does. So then we go into the next phase. But we are in couples therapy now because Ryan has avoidance issues. And after a while, you're like, hey, I'm patient until I'm not. And either you're going to implement this material or we're going to part ways. He consistently shows up in different ways that make me feel safe to say, okay, I'll give you more time. Because I love him and I want to build this relationship, but I don't want to just take anything I can get because I know that there are other people. If we think out of 9 billion people, there's only one, we are gravely mistaken. There is a million, probably out of 9 billion, a million people you could have a beautiful relationship with. But what that means is that I'm making this conscious choice because that doesn't necessarily mean I want to go out there and find that. But that's, I think, what makes it healthy is I never think I'm too much. I never think I'm too needy. And like I said, I think the biggest thing that makes it healthy is knowing that it could end at any time and that's okay. But that every single day we show up for each other because we are choosing each other.
Yes. Wow. I love that. I feel the same. That's what Hector and I have too. And I think that's the future of relationships. I wonder about that because marriage rates are going down, right? People aren't, is it that they're afraid of commitment? Because I want commitment, but I think if you're committing to somebody to be okay, I choose you every day, how is that going to change us saying I promise to love you forever? It's very different, right? In how. And you're saying you're not saying that. You and Ryan are not saying that. You're not promising that we're going to be together forever, but you are committing to being fully present and growing and learning in your relationship day by day. Is that how you would describe it?
100%. None of us
Yeah.
have any idea what's going to happen. And I
No.
think that's why we see high divorce rates. It's like because for a long time, people were marrying out of proximity and timing, right? I'm here, you're here, we're in our 20s. This is what you do. Let's do it. And then that's why they're not happy. No one was really vetting necessarily. There's some people, of course, that are happily married for 30, 40, 50, 60 years. Yay, right? That's beautiful. But for the rest of us, like I came from a family of divorce that I watch. Every person in my family has been divorced besides my sister and her husband. And what makes their relationship really beautiful is that they've committed fully to each other, but both of them will say like, yeah, this is my person, until it might not be, because love is conditional. Unconditional love is for your mom and dad. But if you came to me and started treating me like shit and hurting me and doing things, I don't need to stay just because I love you, because love is not enough. And I think that now it's an interesting time because we're so inundated with all of this information, but yet it feels like people don't know anything as much, right? Like
it's too much.
it's too much. And so I think it's finding a balance and saying, I'm making this choice for now. My mama has me add everything at the end is for now. If it's going really well, for now. And if it's not, for now. Because all I have is this moment. And I know that I trust myself that no matter what, I'll be okay moving forward. And so I think, yes, are there people that are terrified of commitment and we have technology and we have all these different variables and different generations? Absolutely. But I also think the other side of the coin is that people are now having the opportunity to say, I don't have to get married at 22 and have kids. I get to choose a different life. And that means that maybe I choose myself.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Awesome. I think for anybody, if you're struggling with feeling like you have to show up in a specific way in dating, we need to look and say, where'd you learn that from? Who taught you, right? I was taught by my dad that a man's going to pay for everything. He's going to take care of it. You don't have to do a thing. Okay, well, my partner works for me and I pay his salary. So we flipped that on its head. And I had to work on my nervous system to say, I'm allowed to want something different. I'm allowed to say, that doesn't work for me. I'm not your meal ticket. I'm not your paycheck. I am here because I genuinely want to connect. But I think the number one thing we need to learn is you got to learn to grieve. Because there are going to be, if we're talking heterosexual norms, there will be women that only want you there because of what you offer them. And if you are not okay with knowing that that's the situation, then you're going to keep trying to perform for them. But if we learn to grieve and say, I'm allowed to be disappointed, I'm allowed to set a boundary, and if it doesn't work out, that's okay. That's really where it starts, because we have to understand, where did I learn this behavior? How can I reparent that version of me that has feeling like they have to earn it? And then, am I okay if it doesn't work out? And so it's really a process of learning to grieve that there are going to be plenty of people that don't want the boundaries that you set because there were people that benefited from you not having them.
Oh, yes. Yeah. You've said this like quite a few times in our conversation, Sabrina, and I think it's going to hurt, right? Like, you're going to be okay if you're not with this person, right? Like, but that's hard for people to actually believe.
When you have control of how much it hurts. You do have control of how much it hurts, because I'll never forget when my ex left me, I was a shell of a human. I couldn't function. And my friend said one thing that literally changed everything. And she said, you got to take the shine off him. And she was like, what makes him so special? What makes this person everything? And I had to stop and realize it couldn't have all been my fault. It wasn't everything I did. And that's just that trauma response of going back to let me blame myself for everything. Because if I can blame myself for everything, I have control over it. And if I have control over it, you're not going to pull the wool over me.
So when do you know when you're ready to date again?
The unsexy answer is you might not know until you get into dating, right?
Yes.
You might not know until you go out and go, wow, I am not okay. This
Right,
doesn't
I am
work
not
for
ready.
me. But where I would say is, have you processed the ending of your past relationship? Have you understood your non-negotiables and boundaries? What did I use to accept that I'm no longer willing to? And are you okay if it doesn't work out? Have we worked through that rejection doesn't have to mean anything about me? You're allowed to be upset. Like we just said, you can be bummed if it doesn't work out. Give yourself permission and validate your experience of, man, I liked that person. That feels shitty, but that doesn't mean I need to make it mean anything about me or my worth. And so when we start to notice everything becomes a core belief, I knew they weren't going to be into me. I knew they would find me too much. No one ever likes me. I'm never going to find someone. You're no longer even dating the person. You're just dating them so that they make you feel a little bit better about yourself.
Yes. For me, it was like I was no longer attached to my ex at all, and feeling like, okay, I'm strong again. Like I felt like I had to rebuild myself, you know, and a lot of us do after being in a relationship where you felt like you lost yourself.
What are the tools, right? What tools am I implementing? Do I call my mom to co-regulate? Do I have a therapist I really like? We have to start to look and say, what are the tools that I can implement that I did not have then? Because otherwise it will be the same thing and we will continue to keep repeating the same patterns. Why? Because our brain is a predictive machine. Your brain wants to keep you safe. It's not designed to help you grow. Can you grow? Sure, neuroplasticity is very real. So if it says, in the past this has happened, oh my God, this looks like it's again, we automatically default to that versus because holding space and nuance requires more energy. So it actually, there's a study, it takes, I think, like 2 milliseconds for your brain to go to your amygdala. It takes 235 for you to turn your prefrontal cortex on and start to come to the executive function. So you're talking 10, 20, 30 times longer. So we go to fear immediately because that's safer. Think of if we were, here's the example. If you're in the wild and you and I are in our little hut right now and we heard a noise outside, you have 2 options. Either you go, it's just the wind, but then a tiger comes in and eats you, or you go on the defense going, and you come out and go, oh, it's just the wind. It's trying to keep you safe. And so we have to know that when something happens and we go on the defense, we can regulate, we can come back to the present moment and say, wait, I want to challenge this and see what facts do I have to back this up.
Yeah. It's creating more space.
The power of the pause.
The power of the pause. Yes. I think I really learned the power of the pause. I'm like, and the more you do it, like the more pause you can have. And that's really, that's peace. Like, I have more peace in my life, Sabrina.
Same. Same, because when you put space between the stimulus and your reaction, then you can actually have space to respond.
Yeah.
And that's a beautiful place to be. I used to be so anxious. That's when we see, if you know it's anxiety because of urgency. Intuition's a calming experience. If I said, Robin, do you like that yellow? And you went, nah. Right? You didn't sit there and overthink. But if you were like, oh my God, but is she going to like me? But she should think this.
I don't know.
Right? It's like, then that's the anxiety of I need to have this urgency. That's when we know, okay, I shouldn't do anything right now. I need to sit in the discomfort. I need to expand that window of tolerance like we talked about and be able to say, okay, now what are my choices?
Wow. So I'm going to ask you 2 questions. I ask all of the guests that come on our series. Thank you, Sabrina. So the first is, what is one myth about love that we have to unlearn?
The one myth that drives me insane is that relationships and love should be easy. I don't know who told us that, but relationships take work. They take 2 people that choose each other every single day. And if it's easy, then somebody's not communicating their wants, needs, and desires. You're allowed to have conflict. It's the regulation and repair that's really important. And it's not about, oh my gosh, they trigger me all the time. It's like, what am I doing with that? But if love is easy and all you need is love, well, then the world would be so different right now, wouldn't it?
Yeah. And what is your definition of love?
Oh, that's a good question. I think my definition of love is 2 people that choose each other every day, no matter what. Because that's fundamentally what it is if I love you, then that means it's a verb, it's an action, it's a feeling, it's all of these things cumulatively. But I think above all, truly, love to me is that I can be here with you, but I can also let you go. And that is means if I really love you, then I have to be okay if this doesn't work and to let you free. Because if you come back or if we decide to make this happen, cool. But if not, if I really love you, then I'm going to want the best for you. And that includes it not being me.
Oh, yes. Right? It's, that saying, if you love someone, set them free.
Right.
Oh boy. Right? If you really truly love someone, you want the best for them. Really, you do. Yeah.
And sometimes that's okay if it's not me or that in that moment they need to go elsewhere. That's okay. But if I really love you, then that means I'm going to care about your well-being. And someone that cares about you will care about their impact on you.
Yeah. Wow. Well, thank you, Sabrina Zohar.
Thanks, Rob.
Follow us at Real Love Ready and at Soulprint Media Co. on social media and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. The Real Love Ready series is a Soulprint Media production presented by BetterHelp, hosted by me, Robin Ducharme. Executive producers are Robin Ducharme, John Kim, Tara Malhotra Feinberg, Hilary Swanson. Produced by Miriam Debbie Talbot, Tara Malhotra Feinberg. Directed by Miriam Debbie Talbot. Edited by Susie Landers O'Connell. Director of Photography, Scott Simic.